Hi everybody, I'm just going to do a very quick video tutorial to demonstrate some data persistence with SQLite. So SQLite is a text-based database in that it will exist on our machines as a file. So it's very handy, it's very portable way of persisting data and to offer some data persistence to some types of applications. So we're going to use it with our Java programs just to show how we can actually offer some data persistence via SQL queries with our SQLite database. So the first thing I'm going to run through is the SQLite Manager. So SQLite Manager gives us the ability to, I suppose, control all aspects of our database in that we can create a database, create some tables, insert some records, query the database. We can do everything with our database through the manager, okay? So there's a number of different managers that are out there, and there's ones that you can install as applications, some are web-based, so on and so forth. The one that I'm going to show in this demonstration today is a plugin for Firefox, which is called SQLite Manager. So this is very powerful plugin that will allow us to manipulate our SQLite databases. So if you haven't, so just two steps to it. If you haven't got Firefox, to follow this tutorial you will need Firefox, so you'll have to go get it. And then we're going to, right now I'm going to install SQLite via Firefox. So I've the Firefox browser open, and I'm just going to Google SQLite Manager. Fine. You can see it there quickly, SQLite Manager as an add-on for Firefox. And what I'm going to do quickly then is just add to Firefox and follow the steps. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to run through the process again. So just make sure that you can add the SQLite Manager plugin to Firefox and we're good to go. Once it's installed, it's always available through the Tools menu in Firefox. You can see it there, SQLite Manager. If you open up Firefox and it's not showing you the little bar across the top, if you press the Alt button, this menu will appear, okay? So that's probably going to be a Windows problem. So just be careful of that, okay? So click Tools, then click SQLite Manager. Okay, so if there's any databases open, I'm going to close them. Okay, so we're going to create a new database from scratch. So I'm going to click Databases, New Database. I'm going to give it a name. So we're going to create a simple Java application that's going to store some student information. So how about we call our database College Database? So C-O-L-L-E-G, College DB. Fine. Now, as soon as we want to save it, it's going to ask us where we want to save it. Now, with respect to our Java program, it has to be placed in the root directory of our Eclipse project folder. So, what we're going to do quickly, we're going to create our Eclipse project so we can persist or store our information in our database, okay? So, I'm going to go to Eclipse. So I have no projects open, so I'm going to go File, New, Java Project. I'm going to call it College App. No one really minds. Finish. And there it is. So I have the project created now. So now I can actually create my SQLite database that I can offer some data persistence to. So let's go again. So File, New Database. What did we say? College DB. Yeah, fine. Okay, and it's going to ask me, well, that's great. Now, where do you want to store it? So I'm going to go back to my project workspace, College App, and I'm going to drop it right here in the root directory of the Eclipse project folder. So this is in Workspace, College App, and then Save. Okay, so I'm going to say Open, and that's fine. So that has persisted into the root directory of my College App Eclipse folder. Fine, excellent. So if you want to go see that in your project in Windows Explorer, whatever you want to use, please go have a look, okay? So I'm just going to push on a little bit. I'm going to create myself a database table. So right click Tables, and click Create Table. So I'm going to very quickly create a database table. So the first thing I'm going to add in is an identifier, ID, which is of type integer. It's going to be the primary key, and it's going to auto increment. So you can see there I've ticked my 2 boxes. Fine. Next is going to be first name. First name will be a varchar. Last name will be a varchar, 2 strings. The last one will be age. And we'll just set that to an integer value, keep it simple, okay? So ID integer, first name varchar, last name varchar, age integer. The special ones are is the ID, which is integer, which is the primary key, which is set to auto increment. I have to give the table a name, so I'm going to call it students. So students database table with the ID, first name, last name, and age. Okay, are you sure? Yup. And you can see here on the left hand side now I have my database table, which is absolutely fantastic. So that's going to leave us in a position to be able to rock on over to our Java code and to be able to start building up our project folder. Okay, so once again I'm going to flip back over to Eclipse. Actually, before I flip, maybe we might just test the water a bit. How about we execute a query? So maybe we should insert some information here. So let's say that, so when we actually connect to our database, we'll see that there's some information in it. So let's insert something. So let's say insert into students. And what are we inserting in? We're inserting in the first name, the last name, and an age. Now we're not inserting an ID because that's auto incrementing. We don't need that. The database is going to manage that for us. So insert into students first name, last name, age, values. So what values are we adding in? So we'll put in Barry as the first name, comma, space, inside single quotes again, Alan, single quote, age 27. So there is my insert statement. I'm just going to copy it there. I might use this later on, so copy. So that's my query. Perfect. So run. Okay, so it's not giving me any feedback, so let's go back to my students table, click browse and search. Ah, excellent. So now I have a record that's been entered with an ID of 1, first name Barry, last name Alan, age 27. So it's working perfect, absolutely fine. So over we go to Eclipse. So the first thing I'm going to do to my project is I'm going to add a new class. And I'm going to call my class, be very original, and just call it main. And make sure I tick the box for public static void main. That's the entry point to our program. So finish, and there's main. Fine. So now I'm going to start adding in my data persistence information. Now, we're not going to follow the exact OOP properties or examples or principles exactly. I just really want to demonstrate some of the basic database functionality here, and we can expand on this in the coming weeks, making sure that what we design follows the solid design principles. This is just a basic example, okay? So after saying that, we will try and have a little bit of separation of concerns in that I will add another class to store my database functionality. So I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call it SQLite, SQLite-DB. So I'll create a new class called SQLite-DB. That's where my SQLite code is going to live, okay? Absolutely fine. Now, to be able to connect to the database, I need to add a SQLite jar file to my project. And if I don't do this, the database functionality isn't going to work. So I need to use the JDBC bridge. So I'll just run through the process of it first, and then I'll explain what you need for it. So for the project we're dealing with, as in the project name, see it here is College App on the left hand side. Right click it and select Properties. Now I want to add a jar file. to the project. The jar file is going to allow me or facilitate me to be able to connect to the SQLite database. So click Java build path from the left hand side, click libraries from the tab, and then we're going to click add external jar file. Now you can see here that I already have downloaded a file called SQLite-JDBC 3 whatever .jar. That's my jar file. You will need this, so if you haven't got it, you're going to have to download it from the net. So if you just do a quick Google for this, you will find it, okay? So select your jar file and click open. That's absolutely fine. Click apply, click OK, and that's done, okay? So we'll know in a couple of minutes whether or not everything is working as expected, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to start building up the code base of what's needed inside our Java code to be able to connect to the database. So it's not massively complicated, but we'll take our time and just step through it, okay? So this is the class. So inside my class, I'm going to hold as data attributes a connection. Make sure I'm spelling it right now. Connection C, and I'm going to initially set it to null. So the constructor is going to set this when we try to instantiate an object of type SQLite database. I'm going to have another one that I'm going to call statement. STMT, and I'll set this to null. Fine. Now before we do our constructor, you can see that Eclipse is giving out. So we need some imports. So we click over here on the left hand side. It's going to tell us, so I want to import connection, and that's from java.sql. Exactly what I'm after. So you can see it's added up there. Perfect. Second one is statement. Now we have to be careful with the statement one. There's statement that's part of the .sql library or package, or we've java.beans. We have to make sure we get the correct one. So it's a SQL, java.sql. If you get the wrong one, it ain't going to work correctly. Fine. So next thing we're going to create is the constructor. So our class is called SQLite DB. So SQLite DB. And this is going to be our constructor. Fine. So inside the constructor, I am going to say, I'll put a comment in for maybe try connect to DB. Fine. Now, we're going to have to do a try catch for this. So if something goes wrong, we need to be able to catch it. So try something catch. What would we say? Exception. And just keep it simple. Exception E. And we're out. And we can say print. What do we say? Oh, what are we? Java. So it's system dot out dot print line. And what are we going to say? Let's say something's gone wrong. Fine. We'll make it more meaningful. Hold on. Error. And then we'll go for plus E dot get message. Okay, fine. So we'll save that. Okay, so now we can start adding our code to connect to the database. So what are we saying? So the first thing I add in is class. Class dot for name. Perfect. And the class name is, and we put it inside double quotes, and it's org dot SQLite SQLite dot JDBC. So it's looking for the jar file that we have added to our library. So that's offering the functionality to be able to connect to the database. So fine. So next thing I'm going to go for C is equals to driver manager dot get connection, and then as a string, hold on, I can't see what's going on there now. Come on, lads. JDBC colon SQLite colon. Now, what did we call the database? Okay, so not sure. Back we go. We called it collegedb.sqlite. So it is going to be collegedb.sqlite. That's the name of the database. Then we close our string. We put in our semicolon. So we're telling it that it's JDBC. It's going to be a SQLite database, and the name of the SQLite database is collegedb.sqlite. Now, the get connection is going to look for this in the root folder of our project, i.e., they're inside our workspace, a collegedb or college app project folder. If there's no SQLite database file there called collegedb.sqlite, it's going to create one. So we have to be careful. So if our database isn't operating as expected, we'll have to check to see if that student table is in that particular database that we're looking at. If it's not, then something's gone wrong with where we've positioned something, okay? So we'll just have to be a little bit careful with that. And maybe I'll give a little message here saying system.out. What will we call it? Sugar. We'll say connected to DB, okay, whatever, okay, fine. And then we should eventually close the connection. So I am going to, now it shouldn't really be here in the constructor one, I'm just going to put it in for this one. It'll force us to deal with this later on. C.close. So we have to close off our connection. So I'm going to save that. That's fine. And I'm going to run the project. Now, this is my class. Now, if I want to run this code base here, I have to instantiate the SQLite class. I have to create an instance of this. So I need to create a SQLite DB object. Now, main is my entry point. So here I have to create an object of type SQLite DB. SQLite DB, and I'll call it DB, or call it whatever you want, is equals to SQLite DB. And that should be fine. Is equals to new. Yeah. Perfect. Save. Okay, so we run our program and we should hopefully, we've connected to the DB. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so let's see if this has actually worked out okay for us. Okay, so maybe let's see, can we retrieve some information from the database? So there's already one record in, which is, excuse me, Barry Allen. So Barry Allen's already in there. So let's see how fast we can get Barry Allen out of the database. So I'm going to create a new method. So it's inside my public class SQLite DB. I'm going to create public void, what we call it, get students. Get students or list students makes no difference. Technically we're just listing them, so maybe list students. Okay, now inside here I need to create, okay, so the first thing I need is a statement. So statement has been set to null. So I need to create a statement. So I'm going to say this, which is the object, .stmt, which is the variable we have up above in the class. We're going to say that that equals to c.create statement. Okay, so we need a statement. And that's going to be part of our query. So now we have the statement. Okay, oh, okay, now it's given out again. Everything we do with our SQLite code needs to be try-catched. So I am going to be a little bit lazy. So just to speed, I don't want the video to drag on for hours. So just clear out what we have here. Get my friend here. I want to cut him out. Okay, so we try-catch him, okay? Now, I haven't dealt with the c.close yet, so I'll get him in a second. So okay, so I'll just finish off what I have with list students first. Okay, so I've this.statement is equals to create statement, c.create statement. Okay, now I need a result set. Every time I query the database with, let's say, select star from students, it's going to return a large set of data from the database table, which is basically all of it. I need somewhere to store this, and I'm going to store it in a result set. Result set or s is equals to statement dot, what have we got? So it's statement dot execute. Okay, so execute a string. What string are we going to execute to get all of the information from our table? So it's going to be select star from, what did we call it again? Students. That's perfect. So that's the result set back. So let's see. We need an import for result set, which is absolutely fine. Result set rs. Okay, let's just check. I'm just going to take my query out because I'm going to need that in a second. Control X. Oh, okay, I get it. Statement dot. Let's execute query. That makes more sense. And that is going to give me inside Control V. Okay, let's be careful of what we pick now. The helper methods are great, but it's very easy to pick the wrong one. Then you could be looking at it wondering what's going on. Okay, so that's our result set. So this could be hundreds or thousands or even one result set that's going to be returned. So I'm going to have to deal with each one individually. So this is going to be a loop. So I'm going to loop here, while something, do this loop. So what's the something? So it's while or s, which is my result set, dot next. So you can see it there. That's the one I'm after. While it has a next record, keep going. Eventually, when I'm at the last record, there won't be a next, and the loop's out. Okay. So I just have to get for each piece of information I'm visiting in the result set, which is each row, like in our table, each tuple, 1, 2, 3, 4, the whole way down through it. I'm going to visit each one in the loop. So each time I'm coming around, I need to get the ID, the first name, the last name, the age, and display it out. So I'm going to say int. So I get the ID first. Int ID is equals to or s dot get integer. And what are we after? Well, we're after inside double quotes ID. And that's absolutely fine. So there's the ID. Then I'm after string. First name is equals to or s dot get string. And what are we dealing with? Well, we're dealing with, should be called first name. Sugar. Okay. That's fine. I'm going to be a little lazy. Speed us up. Last name. And what are we after? Same of. So there's, you can see the structure of these is quite similar. So save a bit of typing. Age. Okay, absolutely fine. So all I have to do now is each time I'm looping through it, let's just try display it. So system.out.println. Now if you want to make this sugar, if you want to make this look a little better, that's absolutely fine. I am just going to go for ID string concat with a blank string concat with first name. plus string concat with a blank string plus last name plus string concat with a space plus, what was it, age. Okay, excellent, save. Now, excellent. So we have a method called list students. Now I haven't dealt with close yet. So somewhere along the line I'm going to have to close my database connection. So I'm just going to take him out of here and maybe right after. So just be careful of our brackets here. So this one is close. And I'm going to create a new function called public void close. It's meant to be close connection. So I'm going to create one called close connection. So when I finish with all my database fun, I'm just going to close the connection. So I'm going to have to try catch this as well, haven't I? So try catch exception E whatever, and then fine. But what I'm really trying to do is close the connection. C.close. Okay, so not worried about closing the connection just yet, but I should do it. So what are we saying? So the one we're after for listing student is called list students. So let's have a go at that. So instantiate the object. It's already there. So now I'm going to go for db dot list students. Fine. And when I'm finished with everything, I have to go db dot close connection. Super. So save that and run. Excellent. So we've connected to the DB OK, and I'm getting 1 Barry Allen 27. So I've got the information back. That's excellent. So that's going exactly as we planned. So let's see, can we insert something into the database? Okay, so to do this, I'm coming back to my class, and instead of list or close, I'm going to create a new function, which will be add, or maybe even execute a query. So how about public create a method, public void, no return, and I'll call it execute query. So if someone passes a query to this method, we'll actually run it. So if someone passed insert into whatever, we'll do that. Okay. So how about I call this string query, and that's absolutely fine. So inside here, same again, I need to start building up my functionality. So I could cut and paste, but no, I won't. I'll type it out from scratch. So let's see, try. Let me just short on a bit of real estate now, so I'm going to squeeze my friend down a bit. So try. And if it's not a try, catch. What are we catching? Exception. We could do more detailed exception handling if we wanted, but this is fine. Whatever. Okay, something's gone wrong. Okay, so inside here, I need a statement. So you can see here, I'm going to probably violate one of the solid principles, or it's not really a solid principle, it's just one of the design principles, which will be don't repeat yourself. But we'll do it. So you should always be thinking of evaluating your code as you go. This dot statement is equals to C dot create statement. So there's the dry principle violated. Fantastic. Okay, so what am I going to do next? So I want to be able to execute a query. So now I am going to go for statement dot execute Let's see what we have as options. Execute query. He'll do lovely. So, and what query are we going to run? What's the one that we pass to the method? And that's perfect. That's all it is. So you can see here, I have a method called execute query that someone's going to pass a query in here, and I'm going to execute the query, and I'm done. So that'll put it straight into the database for me. So fine, I'm going to save that. Now back I come. So I'm going to put it up here at the top somewhere. I'm going to need a query. So I'm going to say string, call it query 1 is equals to. Now I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to go back to my friend. Hopefully it's remembered. Excellent. So I'm just going to take, so this is the syntax of the query. So you can see how useful the SQLite Manager is that I can actually create a query here, watch it going into the database, and know 100% that this query works, that when I'm taking it back to Java that it must work, instead of crafting it over in Java itself, over in Eclipse here, and then wondering why it's not working. So I am 100% confident that what I run here is going to work, presuming I can type correctly. No, that's a different problem. Okay, so insert into students, first name, last name, age. Who will we go for? Go for Bruce Banner. I'm not sure of an age, so I will take a gamble on 35. So that's my query. Excellent. Now I am going to call, or I'm going to try to insert the new query before I do the list of students. So I'll be able to see what's actually happening. So I'm going to go for db dot. Oh, what did we call it? Execute query. And what are we going to pass into it? Well, our query is in a string called query1. So I'm going to pass in query 1. Oh, sugar. Now, the typing thing is gone again. 1. Perfect. So save. So what's going to happen is it's going to execute the query. Hopefully everything goes good and Bruce Banner finds his way into our database. Then when I list the students, I should be seeing Barry Allen in position 1 and Bruce Banner in position 2. Then I'm going to close the connection. That's my sequence. So hit run. And I'm getting connected to the database. Okay, see it down the bottom here. Number 1, Barry Allen 27. Number 2, Bruce Banner 35. Absolutely perfect. So I come back to SQLite DB class. Now, what would be really useful here would be maybe I could create some specific methods that could be for adding something, or that I just pass the parameters in that is more related to students. That can be your design choice, and we're going to talk about this in the coming weeks, as in how and why we'll architect things. And later on in the module, we're going to create our own ORM, or Object Relational Mapper, which is actually going to be a little bit cool and a little bit of fun. In that, we're going to get a little bit of metaprogramming going, in that we're going to ask the Java code to craft the insert statement based on the parameters of a given class. So we can just instantiate a class and ask the object to save itself, and that will persist that information back into the database. So that will be really good. So I'm just really trying to just get everyone to understand the basics of data persistence. So give this a go. See, can you delete something? See, can you update something? Have a play around with it, and if you have any questions, please let me know, and I hope this was useful. Thanks, guys.